And joining me now is the Republican senator from Texas, Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Chuck, good to be with you.
You know, after Marco Rubio got out of this race, and just before Wisconsin, you talked about that Republicans were going to now rally to your side, conservatives were going to rally to your side. Since your victory in Wisconsin, that happened in Wisconsin, but since that victory, Donald Trump has gained 2 million more votes. John Kasich has gained 700,000 more votes. You have only gained 600,000 more votes. Why aren't Republicans rallying to your side since your big Wisconsin win? And you, by the way, trail in every Indiana poll, public or private, that we know right now.
Well, Chuck, what we have been seeing happening for several months now is Republicans uniting behind our campaign. Now, you're right. You're focusing on the last week. The last week, Donald Trump won his home state of New York, and he won the adjoining states in the Northeast. And the media reacted with heart palpitations at what a wonderful, wonderful, decisive moment it was for Donald. But as you know well, in the 3 weeks that preceded New York, 5 states voted: Utah, North Dakota, Wisconsin, Colorado, Wyoming. A total of 1.3 million people voted in those 5 states, and we won landslides 5 states in a row. In fact, I won more Republican votes in Wisconsin than Donald Trump did in New York, although that somehow hasn't been reported an awful lot. And if you look at the state of Indiana, just this past week, number one, I announced my vice presidential running mate, Carly Fiorina. But number two, we just earned the support of Indiana's Governor Mike Pence, a strong, principled conservative. That is really an illustration of how the party is coming together. And I think the people of Indiana, the entire country is looking to Indiana. I think the country is really depending on Indiana to choose the direction of this race.
You have clearly put whatever, you pick your metaphor, you put all your chips in Indiana, you named a running mate, you tried to cut this alliance with John Kasich, whatever it is, to keep him out of the state. You're keeping him out of the state. If you don't win Indiana, do you get out of the race?
Indiana is an important state. We are competing hard. We're barnstorming the state. We're on a bus tour, Heidi and I and the girls and Carly, and we're seeing great support in Indiana. And I will say this, Indiana has a chance to choose. Do we want to support a campaign that is based on yelling and screaming and cursing and insults? Or do we want to unify behind a positive, optimistic, forward-looking conservative campaign based on real policy solutions to the problems
facing this country? So if Indiana rejects you, if they're rejecting that argument, are they not?
Well, I don't believe so. I think the support we're seeing is surging. There's a reason Governor Mike Pence offered his support. He's hearing from Hoosiers across the state that don't want a campaign that is based on yelling and bullying. They want real solutions. And my top priority, Chuck, as president, will be bringing jobs back to America, bringing manufacturing jobs back to Indiana, raising wages across this country. And, you know, one of the biggest differences between Donald Trump and me is that I have a real policy agenda to get that done. Donald's only economic agenda is imposing massive taxes on the American people with a 40% tax hike of a giant tariff. That would send us into a recession. It would drive jobs overseas. It would kill small businesses. You know, what I will do, what both Ronald Reagan and John F. Kennedy understood, is that the key to job creation is cutting taxes and lifting regulations on small businesses. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, let me ask you this.
Repeal Obamacare, pass a flat tax, and abolish the IRS.
But let me ask you this. Taxes have gone up, not down, and jobs creation has gone up. How do you explain that?
Job creation has not gone up, Chuck. We have the lowest percentage of Americans working of any year since 1977. The Obama-Clinton economy is a disaster.
We're in a 6-year expansion right now.
It is the slowest recovery from a recession in modern history. Millions of Americans are hurting. Income inequality has increased dramatically. Now, you know who is doing well? The rich. The Obama-Clinton economy has been very good for the Donald Trumps and Hillary Clintons of the world. The top 1% today earn a higher share of our income than any year since 1928. And I'll tell you who our campaign is built on. If you go to our rallies, if you see who's coming out, it's the single mom, it's the steel worker, it's the truck driver, it's the student, it's Hispanics, it's the people who are struggling to climb the economic ladder, who Washington ignores. That's who we need to be fighting for. I recognize that Wall Street and the lobbyists in K Street are doing great under big government, but the rest of America is being ignored by Washington.
All right, I want to go to your struggles in uniting the party around you. In fact, This is what your now running
Tell
mate.
me what you really think,
Well,
Chuck.
no, it's not about me. I'm just asking about your struggles here, getting the party to rally around you. Here's your running mate. Here's what your running mate said about you when she was running for president. Take a listen.
There's no honor in charging a hill that you know you can't take, only casualties, although Ted Cruz maybe got name recognition and money along the way.
I find it odd that Senator Ted Cruz did not renounce his dual Canadian citizenship until 2014, when it became clear he was running for president.
Ted Cruz is just like any other politician. He says one thing in Manhattan, he says another thing in Iowa, he says whatever he needs to say to get elected, and then he's going to do as he pleases.
Which Carly Fiorina should we believe? The one that accepted your invitation to be running mate and what all the nice things she said about you earlier this week, or the person that wasn't having her transportation paid for by you and all those things, and is not on your ticket, but was competing against you? Who should we believe?
Well, I'll tell you, Chuck, listen, when you have a competitive primary, people play hard, they play vigorous, and so she was competing and trying to win, and that's what people do in the course of a primary. I'll tell you how the choice of Carly came about. It was a little over 7 weeks ago that she publicly endorsed me. Mm-hmm. And she did that after coming to the conclusion. She voted for me in Virginia first. Long after she dropped out, she came to the conclusion I was the strongest candidate. And after she endorsed, Carly went on the road with me. Heidi and I have spent a lot of time with Carly campaigning, getting to know each other firsthand. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons we did a long and extensive search to narrow down the right VP nominee. It's perhaps the most serious and solemn decision a presidential candidate makes. But it ended up being a very easy choice because I wanted someone who had the knowledge to do the job, to be president, who had the judgment to do the job, and who had the character to do the job. And Carly's story is extraordinary. She started out as a secretary, and she climbed all the way to being the CEO of the largest technology company in the world, the first female CEO of a Fortune 20 company. And she is someone who understands jobs in the economy, understands, unlike Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, she doesn't think it's Washington that creates jobs. She knows it's small businesses. But she also, Chuck, this is important, has demonstrated character. Character matters. You need someone who tells the truth.
Right.
And one of the greatest moments in this campaign was seeing Carly stand up to bullies. She stands up to Donald Trump. She stands up to Hillary Clinton. Bullying is not a sign of strength. It's a sign of weakness and insecurity. And Carly has shattered glass ceilings her entire life. And I'm incredibly proud to be running on a ticket.
Most presidents or candidates for president, when they name a running mate, they want that person to be an expert at something they're not. Whatever it is. Maybe sometimes it's a political thing, sometimes it's a policy thing. What is it that Carly Fiorina brings that you lack?
Well, listen, with Carly, it's the complete package. I was looking for someone who could be a partner. I've never understood people who just want a ceremonial vice president. In fact, when Carly and I were in the later stages of the discussions, one of the things Carly told me, she said, listen, I'm not very good at going to funerals or cutting ribbons. And my response, I said, Carly, only a weak leader would want a vice president who isn't an active and engaged partner. I wanted someone, number one, who I'm willing to tell the American people, this person is prepared to be president, to step in, to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, to be commander-in-chief. And her experience, listen, it's important to have someone who knows what it's like to struggle, who has faced struggles, whether it is her heroic battle against breast cancer that she overcame, or whether it is the tragedy of losing a stepdaughter to a drug overdose. Carly has seen the struggles that people are facing across this country, and I believe we need a team. Part of the reason I named Carly now, it's unusual to name her now, is to give a clear choice to the voters, to understand what the administration will look like. It will be strong, principled conservatives who you can trust to follow through on their commitments. One
of the things that she seemed to hint at, and you have too, is that you think Donald Trump has a problem with women, with strong women. Do you believe that?
Of course he does. That is evident to anybody watching. Just
do you think he's been sexist almost in some of the insults to Hillary Clinton?
What I will say, if you look just this week at the contrast. This week I was proud to announce Carly Fiorina as my running mate. This week I was proud to welcome the endorsement of Indiana's Governor Mike Pence. In the very same week, Donald Trump stood proudly touting the endorsement of Mike Tyson, a convicted rapist who served 3 years in prison here in Indiana for rape. And Donald's explanation is that Tyson's a tough guy. You know what, Chuck? I don't think rapists are tough guys. I think they're weak. I think they're bullies. I think they're cowards. And it says something if Donald Trump thinks a convicted rapist is a tough guy. He's proud of Mike Tyson's support. I'm proud of Carly Fiorina and Mike Pence's support. And that is as clear a contrast for the people of Indiana and the people of this country as you could ask for.
But I want to follow up on Donald Trump accused Hillary Clinton of playing a gender card and saying that she wouldn't be anywhere. She'd only be at 5% if she were a man instead of a woman. What do you make of that comment?
Oh, it's typical Donald Trump. The only thing he knows how to do in any given circumstance is he yells, he screams, he curses, or he insults. So there he's insulting Hillary. Listen, Hillary is a very smart, committed liberal. Her policies are profoundly wrong, but you know, Donald can't criticize her policies. You know why? Because he supports them. Donald and Hillary, they're flip sides of the same coin. They've both gotten rich exploiting Washington, exploiting government power. So Donald can't criticize Hillary Clinton on Planned Parenthood because he agrees with her. They both say it's terrific and it should keep taxpayer funding. He can't criticize her on Obamacare because Donald agrees with her on supporting the individual mandate, and he said he wants to expand it to socialized health care. And he can't criticize her on foreign policy because Donald agrees with Hillary Clinton that America should be neutral between Israel and the Palestinians, and he also agrees with Hillary Clinton that we should keep in place this disastrous Iranian nuclear deal. I'll tell you, you could not ask for a clearer contrast than Carly and me on the one side and Donald and Hillary on the other.
I got to ask you about, I know you've heard him before, but I got to play him for the viewer, the John Boehner comments that he made earlier this week. Here they are, and I'll get you to react on the other side.
How about Ted Cruz? Lucifer in the flesh. I have as many Democrat friends as I have Republican friends. I get along with everybody. But I've never worked with a more miserable son of a bitch.
Obviously, a little too colorful of language for a Sunday morning, but I got to ask you this. The fact is, you cannot seem to get the party to truly rally around you. If anything, the party is now seeming to be accepting the premise that Trump is going to be the nominee. Isn't it because you have these bad relationships with the John Boehners of the world, the Mitch McConnells of the world? You're not going to win this nomination without their help, are you not?
Well, Chuck, you know, I actually think those remarks illustrate exactly what this race is all about. Number one, I don't know John Boehner. The two of us haven't said 50 words to each other in our entire lives.
Why? You wanted a government shutdown that he helped lead. How have you not had any interaction with the Speaker of the House as a leading Republican senator?
Chuck, it's actually a good illustration. During the government shutdown, I reached out and offered for Mike Lee and me to come over and sit down with the Speaker and Majority Leader, and Boehner said, no interest, no value, I'm not willing to talk to you. So I don't know him at all, but what was interesting about Boehner's comments is he praised Hillary Clinton, he thinks she's terrific, and he praised Donald Trump. He said Donald is his friend, he's his texting and golfing buddy. Listen, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and John Boehner they are the Washington cartel. It is the corruption of Washington. And this is where, with all respect, a lot of the folks in the media don't understand. That's what people are ticked off at. The greatest fraud in this entire election is Donald pretending he's some sort of outsider. Donald and Hillary are the ultimate Washington insiders. They have been enmeshed in the corruption. If you like John Boehner, if you want a presidential candidate like John Boehner, that Donald Trump is your candidate. In fact, I saw those comments and kind of thought Boehner was auditioning to be Trump's VP candidate, and that really would illustrate more for the lobbyists, more for Washington, more giving in and cutting deals with the Democrats. And people are fed up with that. They want instead someone that stands with the American people against the corruption of Hillary Clinton, John Boehner, and Donald Trump.
Let me ask you about David Brooks wrote in the New York Times this week that this is a Joe McCarthy moment for the Republican Party, meaning those who supported Trump will carry that stain with them for a long time, that the party needs to make a decision, clean break or live with the consequences a la Joe McCarthy. Do you agree that this is a Joe McCarthy moment for the Republican Party and the conservative movement?
I think it is a Ronald Reagan time for choosing. The question Republicans have to ask, do we believe in any core principles? Can you just slap an R on your jersey and become a Republican? Or do you have to believe in anything? Does the Constitution matter? Does standing with Israel matter? Because, you know, Donald Trump has actually come out with a position on Israel to the left of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. He's argued for reducing our military assistance to Israel.
But you do reject, so it sounds like you reject the Joe McCarthy comparison.
Listen, my focus is on my own positive, optimistic vision for this country. As president, I'm going to focus on three things: jobs, freedom, and security. Every day, my focus is going to be reducing the burdens of Washington on small businesses, bringing manufacturing jobs back to this country, lowering taxes, and then defending the Constitution and Bill of Rights, standing up, you know, to illustrate how out of touch the New York and Washington elite are. Just a week ago, Donald Trump came out on television agreeing with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton that grown men should be allowed to use little girls' restrooms.
Okay.
Now, I view this issue as a matter of basic common sense. I don't think it's a right or left or Republican or Democrat issue. It's common sense. Listen, I'm the dad of 2 little girls. It doesn't make any sense to allow grown adult men, strangers, to be alone in a bathroom
it's funny
with a
you bring
little
this
girl.
up. You know,
and virtually all Americans understand that. And it is only the height of political correctness that refuses to acknowledge this.
What do you say to Caitlyn Jenner? She actually took Trump up on his offer, and she went and used the bathroom in Trump Tower and then tweeted about it. And she said, by the way, Ted, referring to you, nobody got molested. What do you say to Caitlyn Jenner?
What I say is very simple. If you pass a law, as Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and Barack Obama want, that says any adult man can go into a girl's restroom if he feels like a woman at that minute. Listen, the real danger is not people who are transgendered. It's people who are predators. People who are predators who use that law as an excuse to go target our kids. And that is a real danger. I've spent a lot of years in law enforcement dealing with cases of some of the very worst child molesters, people who do horrible things to kids. And the reason Donald Trump's comment is so revealing, he said a few months ago, he said, I can be the most politically correct person on earth. You know, what his lobbyist campaign manager said last week is that everything Donald is saying, he's playing a role, this is all a stage, he's faking it. And he's showing, this is political correct nonsense. People want someone who tells the truth. Donald is playing a role and pretending to be something he's not. I've been the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and I speak the truth. Donald, there's a reason Donald Trump has given 7 campaign contributions to Hillary Clinton, including 2 to her presidential campaign.
Let me try to.
He is a big government New York liberal.
You have spent.
And he's pretending to be something else.
You've spent this entire interview trying to eviscerate Donald Trump. If he's the nominee, I take it you can't support him anymore, can you?
I believe if the Republican Party nominates Donald Trump, we will lose to Hillary, because when we offer Democrat light, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on the ballot, they support the same social policy, they support the same economic policy. In fact, both Donald and Hillary support allowing illegal immigrants to become U.S. citizens. Now, Donald says he'll fly them back to their country
first. But are you going to support him?
We will lose.
I understand what you believe in the Republican Party. Can you support him? Can you tell your delegates,
Chuck,
lay down your arms and support Donald Trump? Well, you may not.
Chuck,
you realize that.
I recognize that many in the media would love for me to surrender to Donald Trump.
It's not about the media,
number one, that Hillary
Senator,
wins,
it's about
but
the
number
numbers. It's about the numbers. He may win. Republican voters are the ones rejecting you. This is not a media conspiracy, Senator.
Well, actually, with all due respect, the media has given $2 billion of free advertising to Donald. Let me ask you a question, for example. How much money did the networks make on every one of the Republican debates?
I have no idea, because we didn't have a Republican debate.
But you know what's interesting, Chuck? It's been now 49 days since we've had a Republican debate. The Democrats have had a debate. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, they've been willing to debate. Donald can't answer questions about his foreign policy. He can't answer questions about how you bring jobs back to this country.
Why can't you answer the question of whether you can support Donald Trump or not? You can't answer that question. Why won't you answer that question straightforward, black and white?
Chuck, let me finish this point I'm making. Even though the media stands to make millions of dollars off of a debate, you hear radio silence from the media about no debates. They're giving up millions of dollars, and the reason is your network's executives are partisan Democrats. Why doesn't every TV station
You don't get to just say that. Wait a minute. You don't get to just say that. It's just not true, but go ahead. You just you're broad brushing here, and this is exactly what people hate about the media and politics, broad brushes, right?
Listen, the simple reality is the media almost entirely are liberal partisan Democrats. That is the reality of it. The media created this Trump phenomenon, and then they don't hold him accountable. Now, I'm sure the media planned to do so if he's the nominee. In the general election, suddenly you're going to hear every day about Donald Trump's tax returns. When was the last time you talked about his tax returns? You know, we ought to have a debate. There are real differences. Donald won't debate and the media won't hold him accountable. I think the people of Indiana deserve
Can you
a debate.
answer the question
I think
about whether you're going to
here in
support?
Indiana.
Are you going to support Donald Trump if he's the nominee?
I am going to beat Donald Trump. We are headed to a contested convention, and we're going to win, and I'm not willing to concede this country. Listen, this is my kid's future, Chuck. It's not simply a game.
Nobody's saying it's a game, sir.
If we lose this, we lose our country. We lose the Supreme Court for a generation. Religious liberty is taken away. The Second Amendment is taken away. Our kids are bankrupted. We are at the edge of a cliff. And I'll tell you, the people of Indiana, they really are in a position. The country is depending on them to pull us back from this cliff. Because there comes a point where the debt is too great, where we have bankrupted our country too far, where radical Islamic terrorism and our enemies have grown too strong, and you can't turn back. We're not there yet, but we are close. And the reason Carly and I are campaigning and working to earn support is we want to save this country. It's not about some reality TV star who it's all about him. It is about the future of the country and our freedoms. That's what I'm campaigning for.
I know. You still didn't answer the question about supporting him. Don't you think it's important to take a stand? You just said it's a time for choosing. If it's a time for choosing, say it. For him or against him as the nominee. It's a time for choosing, is it not?
Chuck, you're welcome. You're welcome to lobby for support for Trump as much as possible. We are going to beat Trump because Trump's winning the nomination loses the country.
Don't you think Republican voters...
And I am not willing to give up on America. I'm not willing to give up on America.
But if you care this much about it, don't you think you saying, I can't support him if he's the nominee, doesn't light a fire and send a sense of urgency to the Republican Party?
Chuck, what I'm saying is very, very simple. If you believe in free market principles, if you want to reduce the taxes and regulations on small businesses, if you want to bring jobs back to America, you know, the amazing thing about the three-card monte game being played by Donald Trump is he is laughing at his supporters. He's mocking his supporters because he's lying to them. You know, he tries to pretend he is a supporter of the working man and woman. He's the only person in this race who's had $1 million court judgment against him for hiring illegal aliens. He's the only person in this race who right now is hiring hundreds of foreign workers instead of Americans. And on trade, he pretends to support American fair trade. Donald Trump, the ties he sells, the shirts he sells, the suits he sells are manufactured in Mexico and China. He doesn't intend to change it. We need instead a positive, optimistic campaign that stands with the working men and women of this country. That's what our campaign is about.
All right, so let the record show you have not taken a position on whether you can support Trump if he's the nominee. Fair enough?
And let the record show you tried very, very hard to get me to commit to supporting Trump. The record will show that.
Fair enough. Senator Ted Cruz, I got to let you go. You got a lot to do in the state of Indiana. We'll be watching. Stay safe on the trail, sir.
Thank you, Chuck. God bless.
All right. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.